Dear friends, the Chair of the National Endowment for the Arts, Dr. Maria Rosario Jackson.
Good afternoon. The 206th meeting of the National Council on the Arts is now in session. I'm Maria Rosario Jackson. I'm Chair of the National Endowment for the Arts. My pronouns are she and her. I'm wearing a black blouse, a red sweater. I have dark hair. My square on your screen has a black background with the National Endowment for the Arts logo in the corner. Welcome, members of the National Council, arts leaders, NEA staff, and members of the public. It is a great honor to have served as a member of the National Council on the Arts since 2013, and now as chair, appointed by President Biden and sworn in late January. For the record, our National Council on the Arts members joining us today are government and community leader, Ismail Ahmed from Farmington Hills, Michigan, arts researcher Bruce Carter from Miami Beach, Florida, executive producer and director Camila Forbes from New York, New York, attorney, musician, and former member of Congress Paul Hodes from Kittery, Maine, music professor and arts administrator Emil Kang from New York, New York, arts administrator Maria Lopez de Leon from San Antonio, Texas, organic farmer and author Mas Masumoto from Delray, California, poet Huascar Medina from Lawrence, Kansas, visual artist Barbara Ernst Prey from Oyster Bay, New York, dancer, choreographer, and teacher Rani Ramaswamy from Minneapolis, Minnesota, and film industry executive Tom Rothman from Los Angeles, California. Thank you all for being here. The National Endowment for the Arts is an independent federal agency that funds, advances, and strengthens the creative capacity of communities by providing all Americans with diverse opportunities for arts participation, or put another way, diverse opportunities to lead artful lives. Our vision is a nation in which the arts are essential to our democracy and to reaching our highest potential by nourishing creative enterprise, freedom of thought, imagination, and inquiry. While our work includes grant making to a wide range of nonprofit, arts, and arts relevant organizations, as well as public art agencies, at its fullest, the National Endowment for the Arts is best understood not only as a grant maker, but as a national resource and a key partner in building healthy arts ecosystems. We often act as a convener, connector, a catalyst, and provider of vital research and information that helps us understand roles and impacts of diverse facets of our cultural sector in our nation. Our latest report, released on March 15th, shows that the arts economy is still bringing in more than 4% of the nation's gross domestic product. That amounts to nearly $877 billion in the first year of the pandemic. Thanks to new data from our partner, the Bureau of Economic Analysis, we see the impact of the pandemic on the vast and complex creative sector, while some of the largest industries, such as television and radio, publishing, hardly budged, and web streaming even grew. The story is not over yet for other facets of the creative sector, which have faced even worse declines than in the Great Recession nearly 15 years ago. There's more on that later in our meeting. Before we turn to our regular council business, I want to pause and acknowledge that what happens across the world touches us. From some conversations I've had with council members and NEA staff over the last few weeks, I know that what is happening in Ukraine is very present for us. Artists around the world have responded in remarkable and inspiring ways. And I've asked one of our colleagues, Guiomar Ochoa, our international activities specialist, to share some thoughts and resources pertaining to the situation in Ukraine. Guiomar.
Thank you, Chair Jackson. The State Department has a United with Ukraine website, including a federally organized GoFundMe page. The webpage gives helpful information from celebrating Ukraine's unique identity and culture to humanitarian assistance. The site has a lot of information and is very well organized. Assistant Secretary of State for Educational and Cultural Affairs, Lee Satterfield, recently commented on Twitter. The United States is committed to helping the people of Ukraine protect and preserve their historically important sites. Ukraine's cultural heritage is irreplaceable, and its damage or destruction would be a profound loss to the entire world. Shortly, I will drop some resources in the chat box, which will include the State Department information, as well as some poignant examples of artist performances and a few articles on efforts to preserve art in Ukraine. Also, the State Department is using the hashtag United with Ukraine in their communication about the invasion. Thank you so much. Back to you, Chair Jackson.
Thank you, Guiomar. For the past year, which has been full of significant and unprecedented challenges and demands, the Arts Endowment has been in the capable and diligent care of Ann Eilers. She's our Deputy Chair for Management and Budget. And Ann stepped up as acting chair, and we're so fortunate and grateful that she accepted the call. Ann, thank you for your leadership and good stewardship as acting chair. We're truly grateful. I'd like to acknowledge our newest members of the council who are here with us today: Camila Forbes, Huascar Medina, and Ishmael Ahmed. Additionally, I'm happy to report that there are several new council members who were confirmed by the US Senate just recently. They will join us for the June council meeting, and they are Keenan Azme of New York, Bita Becker of California and recently of Arizona, Gretchen Gonzalez Davidson of Michigan, Christopher Morgan of Hawaii and recently of Maryland, Jake Shimabukuro of Hawaii, Constance or Connie Williams of Pennsylvania, Fiona Prime of Tennessee, and last week, President Biden nominated Michael Lombardo of California. This progress is only possible because of the diligent work of Jen Chang, our White House liaison, Ben Kessler, our Director of Congressional Affairs, and our Office of General Counsel. I know firsthand the value of their guidance, their skill, their wise counsel, and their kindness. A heartfelt thank you. I would also like to take this opportunity to thank Council Member Tom Rothman of Los Angeles, who is concluding his time on the council. Thank you, Tom, for your years of dedicated service. For Council Members Mas Masumoto and Barbara Ernst-Prey, this is also their last council meeting. We thank them for their service previously in our October meeting, but we thank them again today for their dedication. And last, Council Members Rick Lowe and Charlotte Kessler, who could not be with us today, are also concluding their time on the council, and we thank them again for their service. This is a special year at the NEA. Our honorific programs, 2 of them are turning 40 years old. This is the 40th anniversary of the National Heritage Fellows and also the NEA Jazz Masters program. On March 31, NEA and San Francisco Jazz will host the first in-person event in over 2 years. Ann Meyer-Baker, our Director of Music and Opera, and her team at the NEA have worked tirelessly on this very special event. And I invite Ann to please tell us about NEA Jazz Masters this year. Ann.
Thank you so much, Chair Jackson. The NEA Jazz Masters is our nation's highest honor in the field of jazz, and I have the honor of overseeing these special awards along with the NEA's jazz specialist, Katja von Schuttenbach. This year, as Maria said, we are celebrating the 40th anniversary of the NEA Jazz Masters, and we share this 40-year milestone with the NEA Heritage Fellowships too. Now, just like any self-respecting 40th 40-year-old with a birthday, we plan to celebrate this anniversary for a whole year, starting with the 2022 NEA Jazz Masters celebration in San Francisco just a week from now. Just like the NEA Performing Arts grantees who present performances during these topsy-turvy times, COVID has required that we be extra creative and flexible with our plans for the celebration, and it has kept us on our toes as COVID safety protocols change and change and change again. But we're finally in the clear to hold this event on March 31st in San Francisco with our terrific partners at SF Jazz. This will be one of Chair Jackson's first public events, and we're excited to have her witness firsthand the magical powers of the NEA Jazz Masters. The free tickets to this event became available about 2 weeks ago, and the San Francisco community gobbled them up all in just about 36 minutes, which was impressive. The concert, which is packed with a who's who of jazz artists, is on Thursday, March 31st at 7:30 p.m. Pacific time, which is 10:30 for those of us on the East Coast. Now, if that's past your bedtime, no worries, because in addition to being live streamed, the show will be archived and available on our NEA website for the foreseeable future, so you can tune in at your convenience. And now, as Christine gets ready to show a short sizzle reel about the concert, I just want to close by thanking all the intrepid members of the NEA Jazz team for all their hard work. I may be the one doing the talking now, but this project is definitely a group effort. And so now, as they say in late night TV, let's roll the tape.
Thank you, Anne. It's a wonderful glimpse into what we have in store. I'd like to spend just a few minutes on emerging priorities out of my office. As noted earlier, the last 2 years have been challenging, to say the least. A pandemic, heightened racial reckoning, political polarization, global instability. It has been and continues to be an extraordinary time full of challenges and tragedy, but also full of evidence of strength and possibility. The last 2 years have taught us in some cases that we don't have to do what we've always done, and that we may have thought of as orthodoxy is perhaps just one approach among many that we should consider going forward. The last 2 years have also taught us something about what is essential, what's not negotiable, what's foundational, and what's core to who we are and who we want to be. As we step into a new season, and I say this on the 5th day of spring, truly a new season, I hope we're bolstered by what we've learned and are learning. The invitation or the obligation before us is not just to rebuild back to what was. I think the obligation is to pause and consider where we must reframe, that is, attempt to see things differently, and retool, devise new or different ways of working in order to do the work of repair, the work of healing and mending, and work that is so necessary to reaching our full potential. Specific programmatic priorities are appropriately still in the planning stages. I've spent my first few weeks as chair listening and learning from people inside and outside of the Arts Endowment with a diverse range of perspectives on the challenges and opportunities before us. What I can share with you today is directional. There's some guiding premises that have informed my work over the course of my career, and these will also in part inform programmatic priorities going forward. What these premises lead to, I think, are fuller understanding of the various manifestations and roles of arts and culture in our society and in our varied communities around the country. So the first idea is that creativity is a natural impulse and community asset from which to build, and communities are not blank slates. While we certainly play a critical role in bringing art from other places to many communities around the country, and that's important, some of the most important work we do is also in lifting up, strengthening cultural assets that are already in communities. So being able to see the strengths of communities and the cultural assets that are actually the foundation for so many things that we see as our societal aspirations, I think this is critical work. A second idea is the notion that cultural self-determination is a crucial dimension of equity. The idea that people should have the resources and opportunity to express themselves creatively, tell their stories, have aesthetics on their own terms, and attain and have access to the highest expression of humanity. That is part of what I think it means to have an equitable and just community. Cultural self-determination is so core to our American ethos and so central, again, to the society I think we aspire to be. A third idea is that cultural participation takes many forms and happens in a wide range of venues. Audience participation in the work of formal cultural venues are critically important, to be sure. And we acknowledge this as a critical element of our arts ecosystem. But we also have to acknowledge the more expansive way of understanding how people connect to arts and culture by making, doing, teaching, supporting arts and cultural expression in many, many contexts. And there are lots of examples already among NEA investments, such as concerts that are happening in unexpected places like ranchlands and commercial venues, or programs focused on young people learning about design and architecture, seeking to build the world they want to see. Another idea is that art process can be as important as, or even more important than, art product sometimes. And this is certainly true in the work at the intersection of arts and public health, or evident in our signature program, Creative Forces, in collaboration with the US military, which focuses on creative art therapy. Work in arts education, focus on trauma-informed learning environments and youth development is another example where process is so key, and appreciation of the creative process is imperative. A fifth idea is that artists, designers, and culture bearers have many kinds of relationships with publics and roles within communities. So while we certainly want to bolster our more conventional understanding of artists in relation to audiences, I use the word publics intentionally because it's more elastic. It includes the relationship of audience. But it also lifts up other ways in which people connect to the arts and to artists, such as teaching artists or artists working in non-traditional contexts as thought partners and problem solvers, contributing immensely, I think, to addressing a wide range of societal issues and frankly, helping us get unstuck. A last idea is that arts and cultural activity are intrinsically important, period, full stop. At the same time, arts and cultural activity also contribute to other community issues and dynamics. An example of this is the economic impact that we're able to educate people about using the data from the Bureau of Economic Analysis, Or when we think of social fabric and public discourse, we can imagine how the Big Read, an NEA program, helps to contribute to that in many communities around the country. When we think of youth development, Poetry Out Loud comes to mind, as do many of the programs under arts education. The notion of individual and collective healing is often tied to art-centered initiatives at the intersection of arts and health. And contributions to community development or planning are plentiful through the Our Town program, or examples of them anyway. As you can tell from some of the examples that I've shared, we're not starting from scratch. The priorities from the chair's office will build on existing strong work and be aligned with the organization's strategic plan, as well as its diversity, equity, inclusion, and accessibility work. I believe that at its best, the NEA isn't only a grant maker, but also a national resource and a key partner in building healthy arts and cultural ecosystems. And those ecosystems make it possible for all Americans to have artful lives. The ecosystems also make possible the infusion of arts and culture into our civic infrastructure, or what I think of as the policy and programmatic arrangements that we rely on to care for each other, to create opportunity-rich environments that allow us all to reach our full potential. So this includes embracing fully the critically important work and contributions of artists and arts organizations that exist at the intersections of health, community development, economic development, and environment, among other fields. So in closing, I invite you to consider a critically important question with me, and that is, what are the characteristics of healthy arts and cultural ecosystems that make possible artful lives for everyone, and the infusion of art and creativity into how we care for each other? So please stay tuned. As programmatic priorities emerge, I will be excited to share them with you. And now for our official business. Can I please get a motion to approve the minutes of the December 2021 council meeting?
So moved.
Second.
Thank you. Second already. Thank you. Thank you. So at this time, I would like to introduce Ayanna Hudson, Acting Deputy Chair for Programs and Partnerships. I would also like to pause and recognize Ayanna's leadership as she has stepped into this position in the last year. Thank you, Ayanna.
Oh, thank you. Thank you, Chair Jackson. Good afternoon. I'm an African-American middle-aged female with long dark hair. I use she, her pronouns. I'm wearing glasses, a burgundy turtleneck, and a burgundy and black suit jacket. I'm also wearing dark red lipstick, and I'm sitting in front of a white background with the NEA logo in the corner. Council members, we will proceed with the application review section of the agenda. The tally of votes will be announced at the end of today's session. The council will be voting by ballot today on award recommendations totaling more than $108 million in 4 funding areas: grants for arts projects, state and regional partnerships, the American Rescue Plan, grants to organizations, ARP, and national initiatives. These funding recommendations are found in the corresponding sections of the council book. For your vote to be tallied, you must be present via Zoom or teleconference at the time of the motion, discussion, and vote. Council members, you must email your votes to Kim Jefferson immediately at the conclusion of this part of the meeting. Council members' affiliations are recorded in the council book and will be attached to your ballots, and each member has been provided an opportunity to update this information prior to the meeting. Council members are recorded as not voting on applications with which they are affiliated. This list becomes part of the agency's official record. After brief summaries of the funding areas, council members will have an opportunity to ask questions about the recommendations before voting by ballot. May I have a motion to consider the recommended grants and rejections under grants for arts projects, state and regional partnerships, ARP, and national initiatives in the council book?
So moved.
Is there a thank you? Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you. Now I will summarize the funding areas on which you will be voting and then pause for any comments or questions from council members. The Grants for Arts Projects, or GAP category, is the flagship grant category of the National Endowment for the Arts. The project-based funding, we support public engagement with and access to various forms of excellent art across the nation. The creation of art that meets the highest standards of excellence, learning in the arts at all stages of life, and the integration of the arts into the fabric of community. GAP encourages and supports projects that celebrate America's creativity and/or cultural heritage, invite a dialogue that fosters a mutual respect for the diverse beliefs and values of all persons and groups, and enriches our humanity by broadening our understanding of ourselves as individuals and as a society. Projects recommended today comprise the second group of GAP applications brought to the Council this fiscal year. The first half was considered at the October 2021 meeting. In July 2021, the agency received 1,806 eligible applications requesting more than $88 million in FY 2022 support. Recommended for the Council's approval are 1,311 projects totaling more than $26.8 million. Grants are recommended to nearly 63% of applicants, with amounts ranging from $10,000 to $100,000. Recommended projects span 13 disciplines and fields. Direct grants are recommended to 50 states, the District of Columbia, and the U.S. Virgin Islands. Are there any questions or comments from the Council? If not, please mark your ballot. The American Rescue Plan, ARP, Act of 2021, was passed by Congress and signed into law by the President on March 11, 2021. The purpose was to fuel the nation's recovery from the devastating economic and health effects of the COVID-19 pandemic. Funds allocated to the National Endowment for the Arts, American Rescue Plan, grants to organizations grant category represent a significant commitment to the arts and a recognition of the value of the cultural sector to the nation's economy and recovery. Seeking to impact a broad constituency, the Arts Endowment encouraged ARP applications from a variety of eligible organizations, including organizations that serve populations that are underserved, such as those whose opportunities to experience the arts are limited by ethnicity, economics, geography, or disability. Organizations with small and medium-sized budgets, organizations from rural to urban communities, organizations that may be applying for federal support through the Arts Endowment for the first time. In 2021, the ARP Grants to Organizations program received more than 7,500 eligible applications from organizations requesting non-matching grants of $50,000, $100,000, or $150,000. The Council approved 568 grant recommendations, totaling $57.8 million in ARP support in December 2021. Due to extenuating circumstances, some ARP applicants were unable to meet the deadline and received an extension. For March 2022, the Council is asked to approve 2 ARP recommendations for funding totaling $200,000. These grants will fund the preservation of jobs and facility support. Any comments or questions from the Council? If not, please mark your ballot. State and regional partnerships assist the nation's state arts agencies and regional arts organizations in their support for the arts. By law, 40% of Arts Endowment appropriated program funds are awarded in this way. State arts agencies will utilize NEA support in combination with state appropriated funding to support arts organizations, schools, and artists in producing arts projects in communities across the country. This year, up to $55.6 million is being recommended for the states and $11.9 million for the regions. Are there any comments or questions from the Council? If not, please mark your ballot. National initiatives support a wide variety of projects of national and field-wide significance. At this meeting, the Council is requested to approve funding for projects totaling more than $12.4 million in 9 fields or disciplines. Support is requested for an arts education initiative, the Arts Education Partnership, or AEP. The AEP demonstrates and promotes the essential role of the arts in enabling every student to succeed in school and prepare for life and work in the 21st century. The Creative Forces NEA Military Healing Arts Network, which provides creative arts therapies and arts engagement activities in clinical and community settings for service members, veterans, and families. 10 individuals nominated to receive an NEA National Heritage Fellowship, an award that honors American folk and traditional artists or groups of artists for their contribution to our national cultural mosaic. 2 projects and international activities: the Performing Arts Global Exchange, a program designed to provide broader access to the work of international artists and art forms less frequently seen outside of major urban centers in the United States, and USA Artists International, a program showcasing the excellence, diversity, and vitality of US artists and arts organizations at international arts markets and other significant cultural events around the world. The renewal of 2 of the agency's signature national initiatives in literary arts, the NEA Big Read and Poetry Out Loud. The cooperative agreement to support the production and management of the NEA Jazz Master Ceremony and Tribute Concert, which honors the National Endowment for the Arts Jazz Masters Fellows. The 2023 class of NEA Jazz Masters Fellows. 53 recommendations in our town, which will help transform American communities into lively, beautiful, and resilient places with the arts at their core. The renewal of 5 National Endowment for the Arts research labs, which focus on the arts, creativity, cognition, and learning, as well as the arts, health, and social and emotional well-being. And the Sound Health Network Initiative, which regularly will convene experts in music, neuroscience, health and wellness, and will identify and promote research findings. And Shakespeare in American Communities, in which professional theater companies will bring performances and educational activities to middle and high school students across the country. Are there any questions or comments from the council? If not, please mark your ballot. Council members, you may now email your votes to Kim Jefferson on those categories. Finally, we turn our attention to the projects in the award update section. These grants have been awarded under the chairman's delegated authority and are brought to the council's attention at this meeting, but no vote is necessary. Included are 166 Challenge America grants totaling $1,660,000, which will extend the reach of the visual, performing, and literary arts activities in underserved communities across the country. 20% amendment, and a full list of American Rescue Plan funding for state and jurisdictional arts agencies, regional arts organizations, and the National Service Organization for State Arts Agencies recommended during 2021. Thank you so much for your time and attention, and I will turn it back over to Chair Jackson.
Thank you, Ayanna. At this time, I'd like to introduce our NEA Chief of Staff, Rod Joy.
Thank you, Chair Jackson, and hello, everybody. My name is Rod Joy. I use he, him pronouns, and I'm proud to serve as Chief of Staff at the National Endowment for the Arts. I'm a middle-aged Black man with curly black hair. I'm wearing a light blue button-up dress shirt and a dark blue sports jacket. And I'm sitting in front of a Black virtual background with an NEA logo in the corner. I'm really pleased to be here today to provide a brief update on the NEA's American Rescue Plan program. March 11th, 2022 marked the 1-year anniversary of President Biden signing the American Rescue Plan Act into law. Designed to combat COVID-19 and help rescue the American economy, the American Rescue Plan, or ARP, is the second largest stimulus package in US legislative history. We're grateful to President Biden and to Congress that the American Rescue Plan Act included important resources to help cultural organizations and creative professionals hard hit by COVID-19. This included an investment of $135 million to the National Endowment for the Arts. The NEA's Rescue Plan program and other cultural investments in ARP are a recognition by the federal government of the essential role of arts, culture, and creativity to our economy and our national recovery efforts. The goal of the NEA's Rescue Plan program is to help preserve jobs and to support arts and cultural organizations in communities of all sizes all across the country. ARP funds are intentionally designed to be flexible and used to support a broad range of general operations, including facilities, health and safety supplies, and marketing and promotional efforts to encourage attendance and arts participation. ARP grants do not require a match or a cost share. I'm pleased at this time to provide a high-level overview or a snapshot of the NEA's Rescue Plan program. Next slide, please. The NEA's ARP funds, as you can tell in this slide, were distributed in 3 distinct phases. This slide represents an overview of these 3 installments. In implementing ARP, partnerships are incredibly powerful. And for the first phase, we're going to focus on the 40% of resources that were relayed to state and regional arts agencies for regranting in their jurisdictions. This occurred in April of 2021, where 40% of the NEA's Rescue Plan funds were distributed to 62 state, regional, and jurisdictional arts agencies. The NEA's state and regional partners are trusted experts and essential intermediaries in activating ARP. We're proud to see their progress in extending the reach and impact of these vital recovery funds. The second phase of ARP is really all about an investment in and an acknowledgement of the vital role that local arts agencies play in rebuilding local economies and contributing to community well-being. In November 2021, the NEA announced $20.2 million to 66 local arts agencies for subgranting to help arts and cultural organizations rebuild, rehire, and reopen. Through this national network of local arts agencies, ARP dollars are now reaching people and places all across America, in big cities, small towns, rural areas, and tribal lands. The third phase of ARP is all about direct grants to arts and cultural organizations. Thanks to the action taken by this council at our last public meeting, the NEA's Rescue Plan program is providing sorely needed recovery dollars directly to arts and cultural organizations across all disciplines, all budget sizes, and all geographic regions of our nation. In January 2022, the Arts Endowment announced recommended grants totaling $57.8 million to 567 arts and cultural organizations in all 50 states, Puerto Rico, the US Virgin Islands, and Washington, D.C. In addition to helping arts organizations bounce back from the pandemic, ARP was intentionally designed and implemented with equity and fairness top of mind. We're pleased to report that 79% of recommended ARP applications are to small and mid-sized organizations with annual operating budgets of less than $2 million. 27% of recommended ARP applicants were new to funding from the NEA. You'll be hearing much more about the ripple effect of the NEA's Rescue Plan program in the weeks and months ahead. In the interim, I would like to thank and recognize our entire NEA staff team for their tireless efforts and their consistently excellent work that has become a hallmark of the NEA. Every single office and department at the Arts Endowment has gone above and beyond the call of duty in putting ARP to work and in getting these vital relief funds out the door. This past year plus, our staff team has poured everything they have into making ARP, as well as all of our other programs and services, run smoothly and effectively. Under extraordinarily difficult conditions, our staff team has accomplished so much together, and it speaks volumes to the resilience, creativity, and know-how of our agency. We know that our work is far from over. While arts organizations have been reopening and rebuilding work has begun, we recognize that cultural institutions and creative professionals are feeling the continued pain and impact of this pandemic. Our efforts to assist with our nation's equitable recovery will continue in the weeks and months ahead. As Chair Jackson mentioned, this is not only about the NEA's grant making, but we're really excited about opportunities on the horizon to amplify the role of the Arts Endowment as a national resource, a convener, a connector, and a collaborator both across the federal government and with partners at the state and local level. Despite the challenges we face, we're incredibly energized and optimistic about the future. We have a dynamic and visionary new chair of the National Endowment for the Arts. We have a bold and ambitious new strategic plan that will guide the work of the agency into the future. And we have a National Council on the Arts that's deeply committed to building a stronger and healthier arts and cultural ecosystem in America. Please be on the lookout for more updates about the American Rescue Plan and other NEA programs. And with that, I'm pleased to turn it back to Chair Jackson. Thank you all.
Thank you, Rob, for that excellent contribution. I am pleased to announce that the National Council on the Arts has reviewed all applications presented to them, and a tally of the council members' ballots reveals recommendations for funding and rejection have passed. Are there any additional questions, comments, or discussion from council members? If not, I would like to conclude by thanking the entire NEA staff for all of the challenging work that went into preparing for this council meeting, with special thanks to Christine Gant, Kim Jefferson, and Diane Dewhurst, and many others for their critically important behind the scenes work. And with that, the 206th meeting of the National Council on the Arts is now adjourned. I look forward to seeing you all in June. Thank you.